Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet.
Hi, I'm Don from 1A Auto. I hope this how-to video helps you out. And the next time you need a part for your vehicle, think of 1AAuto.com. Thanks.
In this video, we're going to show you how to replace the front axle. On this particular one, we're going to do the front right on a 2000 Chevy Cavalier. This is for a Cavalier with the 3-speed automatic transmission. It's going to be fundamentally the same operation of the right axle to the left axle. To perform this repair, you're going to need a new axle shafts from 1A Auto, jack and jack stands, 30, 21, 19, and 13 millimeter sockets and socket wrench, breaker bar, and a pipe to go over it if you need extra leverage, as well as a pry bar. Take a 19 millimeter socket and by hand remove the lug nut caps that are attached to the hubcap. And once you've done that, pull your hubcap off.
If you don't have the benefit of air tools, start with the vehicle on the ground. Loosen the lug nuts first, then raise and secure the vehicle and remove the lug nuts the rest of the way, as well as the wheel and tire.
Put a little oil on the axle nut. Using a 30 millimeter socket and impact wrench. If you don't have the tool, you can use a long breaker bar while somebody holds their foot on the brake to keep the axle from spinning. And also remove the washer that goes behind that nut. I'm putting a little bit more oil on the axle splines. I'm going to use a block of wood and a hammer to hit the axle out of the hub.
Two bolts hold the, or two nuts hold the lower end of the strut to the steering knuckle.
Turn the whole spindle assembly so that you get better access. I'm going to use some oil and spray down those two nuts on the lower part of the strut assembly just to make it easier for them to come off. Using a 21 millimeter socket with a breaker bar and a pipe for extra leverage, and I'm going to break those nuts free, both the top and the bottom. And once I've got those nuts loose, I'm going to use a ratchet to make it faster for me to get those off. Now I'll fast forward as I take those two nuts off. I'm going to use a hammer and I'm going to tap out the bolts that go through. Be sure not to hit too hard or hit the threads because you don't want to have a hard time putting the nut back on. Use a pry bar or a long screwdriver and pull apart the lower strut and the spindle. We need a little bit more room or clearance to get that axle out of the hub, so I'm going to remove the bracket that holds the flexible line to the solid brake line. That's just going to give me an extra inch. It's a 13 millimeter. And I'm going to go ahead and fast forward as I remove that bolt. Now I've got enough room to pull the spindle back and pull the axle out of the hub. Here's a view of where we're going to pry the right side axle out from. So now under the car, right side axle, I'm prying between the axle shaft itself and the output housing. And once that's loose, give it a couple tugs and there's a little circlip inside that keeps it in and it'll come right out.
To reinstall the axle shaft, put the transmission end in, make sure it lines up, push it in firmly and make sure that the clip locks in, and then we do it a couple times, make sure we push it in a couple times, twist it, and then you can reseat the hub end just by pushing it all the way in and then pushing it into the hub.
Reinstall the washer and the nut that go on the end of the axle.
Okay, here we're just kind of preliminarily tightening the nut. We actually didn't get a shot of torquing it. You want to torque this nut after you put the wheel back on and you have the vehicle on the ground, and you want to torque it between 145 and 150 foot-pounds.
Reinstall the 13mm bolt that holds the brake line to the inner wheel well, and I'll fast forward as I tighten that back up. Now line up your spindle with your strut assembly and get it to the point where the holes line up and you can reinstall your bolts. And those bolts are splined a little bit, so you can go ahead and use a hammer and seat them there fully before going ahead and using or putting the nuts back on. And once I've got those seated, I will reinstall the 21mm nuts that go on the ends, and I'll fast forward as I tighten those up. Now with those two tight, I'm going to go ahead and torque them to 100 foot-pounds. You can reinstall your wheel at this point and get the 5 lug nuts tight. With the car back on the ground, or the wheel back on the ground, I'm going to torque the lug nuts to 90 foot-pounds in a star pattern. And then once I've got that done, I'm going to use the 19mm socket to tighten up the plastic caps on the hubcap. Just remember that there is a notch in the hubcap here for the valve stem, and you're going to want to line those up. And then once I've got those lined up, I'm going to go ahead and tighten them up.
We hope this helps you out. Brought to you by www.oneauto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet. Please feel free to call us toll-free 888-844-3393. We're the company that's here for you on the internet and in person.